Welcome to ChessBase Magazine 164. The major top tournament of this issue is of course the World Championship between Magnus Carlsen and Viswanathan Anand in Sochi, which was won by Magnus Carlsen. Congratulations to him and his whole team. And his second, Peter Heine Nielsen, has annotated a game, and also Radek Wojtacek as second of Vishy Anand. All games are annotated, and there is a large opening survey by Michael Marin, who looks at all games from the World Championship, and in the endgame videos I also look at a few of the fascinating end games, and I'll come back to the match soon. The next top tournament is the Petrosyan Memorial in Moscow, which was won by Grishuk. Then the Qatar Open, which was extremely strong for an open tournament, and won by Yu Sang-sui, who is also annotated 2 games, and who was a member of the Olympiad winning team of China, and who beat in the last 2 rounds Giri and Kramnik. And finally the London Chess Classic, which was won by Viswanathan Anand, as he had one win with black more than Giri and Kramnik. Yeah, and in fact it was the only game which was won by black. So this is quite fascinating. Yeah, Kramnik has annotated his win against Nakamura in detail, and of course also the other games were annotated in detail. I had to delete the annotations due to the space limitations of this video format. So let's go back to the World Championship match, and this was of course one of the decisive moments. The 6th game, annotated in detail by Rustam Kazimjanov, white to move, and Magnus should have played something like rook g3, and then, okay, it's a game. It can have 3 results. But he chose to activate the king, which is usually good in endgames, but the moment when he played it, he realized that something went wrong. But fortunately for Magnus Carlsen, Anand didn't notice this, was too focused and concentrated in the position, and didn't seize his chance. Black to play and get a large advantage with knight takes e5, which is now possible as the knight can move away with check, and after king d3 black would have knight b2 check, then winning 2 pawns with very good winning chances. While in the game Anand missed his chance, and then after king e2 everything was fine again for Magnus, who went on to win. Yeah, and the final decision then came in the last 11th. Yeah, okay, the full length of the match would have been 12 games, but the decision fell already in the 11th game. Magnus was white here, but Vishy Anand with black to move. What to do? Vishy found an impressive way to create play. b5, very seldom this kind of lever, and very strong to open roads for black's pieces. If the pawn takes, then a4 activates black's sleeping a8 rook, and black has enough compensation for the pawn, and it is probably even easier to play with black as he pressurizes white's position. So very impressive move by Vishy. But then later Magnus had activated his king, and here Vishy maybe wanted too much. Rook b4, this is also very impressive and probably still playable of course, but very risky, but the idea was too risky. Now knight h5, f4, and white's play came first, and Magnus went on to win an impressive endgame. Yeah, before I come to the openings, one game which was annotated in detail by Yu Sang-sui against Kramnik in the 9th round of the Qatar Open. What to do with white here? What has the highest priority? Queen c3, very strong. These eyes Black's major weaknesses, and now there is no real defense left. Kramnik tried f4, but the tactics just work for White. Somehow there's no way to exploit it. Kramnik didn't have enough compensation, and White went on to win. There are 12 opening surveys, and the endgame DVD section is also like an opening survey. King's Indian, d takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes d8, going directly from the opening to an endgame. And yeah, I've tried to get a slight advantage in the style of Ulf Andersson. And there's a new author here for this section, Robert Driss, who looks at the Queen's Gambit accepted with e4 in the third move met by b5. And I want to mention 3 surveys in particular. The first by Michael Marin, a Korchnoi specialty, here against Hübner from the candidates final, but also against Karpov were games, famous games. Check. And now early c takes d4 in several versions. First the pure version. Yeah, and always with knight f6 and so on, and Marin claims that Black has equality despite the isolated pawn due to the dynamic counter play, and Korchnoi drew here against Hübner in 1980. And another idea is seen in Kotronia Svagintsev, Legnica 2013. Queen e7 check is an idea even to refine it. After queen e2, Black wants to take and then play this endgame, and Marin thinks that Black is basically okay. And after bishop e2, then just knight f6, again the usual way, queen c7, and again c takes d4. This is also one of the points. And Marin thinks that Black can more or less equalize with this concept due to the dynamic counterplay. Next, I want to mention Alexei Kuzmin's article. This is Arashidze Kolvaya, Sant Ferran 2014. And this was also played in one of the World Championship matches, Carlsen against Anand, you probably remember. c4 against a6. And now comes the point, queen d3. And maybe White can hope for a slight advantage here due to the space advantage. And this also is an opening trap where many players have fallen into. Now Black should castle short, like in the game. Why does knight takes e4 fall into the trap? Now this is quite deep, so many have fallen into it, like Nepomniachtchi, Sweetler, but of course it was a blitz game. And White wins. But it is quite deep, of course. The dark squared pressure is too strong, and Black cannot hold the position anymore. This is an opening trap, but of course Kuzmin doesn't treat this as an opening trap, of course not, but a try to get an advantage with White due to positional reasons. Then an article by Martin Breutigam. The idea is in basically d4 and then e3 in many lines. Breutigam looks at this approach against many Black openings. I have selected the Benoni and the Grünfeld, where I think it has particularly interesting points. Here d4, many move orders are possible into this Benoni type of position. And then the idea is just to play the Benoni with a pawn on e3 so that the e4 is not weak. And so to pressurize Black like this. Black has made the usual Benoni moves, and White can hope to have a slight advantage with the bishop pair, the space advantage on the king side, and no weakness on e4. This is Morozevich Kramnik from the World Championship Tournament 2007. And against the Grünfeld, the idea might be as follows. Again, e3, this is Grishok Nepomniachtchi, but blitz game, 2013. Yeah, Grünfeld. And now just taking, and e4. And there is no knight on c3, which Black could take, so the knight must move away, and then to hope for a slight advantage in this way. Black doesn't get the usual Grünfeld play. It's slightly different somehow. Yeah, like in the Benoni. White takes away a few counterplay options. So if this is interesting, then look at Breutigham's article from White's point of view, but of course also with black you may need something against it if you play an Indian defense against d4. Yeah, then in the columns, Oliver Ray in the tactics looks at small moves, smart moves, and really solve the tactic exercises yourself first and take your time to keep your eye sharp. Dorian Rogosenko looks at the advance of the h-pawn, an important motive often used as battering ram and to in other purposes. And in the endgame column I look at endgames from the World Championship match, and in the DVD section on the King's Indian exchange variation with d takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes d8. This is like an opening survey this time. It goes directly from the opening to the endgame. And last not least, Rainer Knag, as usual, looks at traps, this time 6 traps, and I want to show one of them in Ruy Lopez opening. So, Ruy Lopez main line, then knight f6, casting short, b5, bishop e7, and now black shall play d6. This would be the right move. But with knight takes d4, black falls into the trap. How to exploit this? The solution is on the DVD by Rainer Knag. But solve it yourself first, like with the tactical exercises. And now I wish you a lot of fun with ChessBase Magazine 164.